Odysseus has made his reunion with his son, made a connection with the swineherd in Eumaeus' hut, and now he's ready to start reconnoitering, moving his way into the next step, which is going to be getting himself into the center of this town, and eventually into Odysseus' house, and from there make his connection with Penelope. Telemachus, it shows at the beginning of 17, has learned the stuff that he was supposed to learn during that journey as he went around to see the great aristocratic friends of his father. He learns what it is to be a purposeful, now slightly angry man who's in charge of a house that other people are abusing. He starts to move around more purposefully. He lays down markers to the suitors, telling them that the things that they're doing are not quite right. He guarantees statements that some people make in his own house, so he starts to take responsibility for other things. And we're going to watch this growing up of Telemachus on display in Book 17. He, at the very beginning of the book, lies to Eumaeus about Odysseus, doesn't he? So he's now in on Odysseus' inner circle of lies, and he himself becomes a liar, just like his father. It shows him as growing up to take a different role in his group. He says to Eumaeus, take this stranger. He knows that it's Odysseus. Eumaeus doesn't. Eumaeus, take this stranger to Odysseus' house so he can get some food begging there. I can't feed everyone that comes up to me, so he's going to have to beg some scraps from the suitors. Now, in doing that, on page 354, what Telemachus is doing is positioning his father, disguised as the beggar, and positioning his father in such a place that he can now get to know what the lay of the land is, hanging around with the suitors. And then Telemachus shows his responsibility, kind of stepping up a little bit more. His first conversation with Penelope, he says, I need to go meet my friend Theoclymenus, whom I brought with me, and I need to take care of him, he says on page 356. So he's starting to sort of step up. He's been educated. We can see here in this picture of the young Telemachus getting schooled. He's been educated, and he's now ready to start taking responsibility for some of the things in his house. Closing off Book 17, there's a different statement that comes out of Telemachus' mouth than the one that we were used to seeing him. Remember, in those early books, he's constantly talking about how the gods are not on my side. If only the gods were on my side. The gods are giving awful things to me. He now says what heroes say at the close of 17, page 374. I'll tend to all things here, I and the deathless gods. Now, this is what a hero does. Yeah, sure, it's up to the gods, but it's also up to me. There's an understood double determination in the events that go on for a hero, in the events that the hero is responsible for. Yeah, sure, the gods steer all things, but that doesn't mean that the hero is not therefore also responsible for what happens in the purview of the hero, what's going on in their terrain. The theme carries on in Book 18. Telemachus is still hovering around the center of the city, and when he sees Odysseus as this beggar and Iris, the other lowly beggar, the two of them are about to get into a fight, and there's nasty words back and forth, and they take oaths at the beginning. So if I win, this happens. If you win, that happens. This all unfolds on page 377. Telemachus at that point steps up and says, okay, you all can count on me to guarantee the oaths that you've just taken. I am going to be the guarantor of the oaths that you all have just taken. So go ahead and have your fight, but under the understanding that I'm going to make sure that what you all have agreed to is going to get executed in the end. That kind of authority to execute on someone else's promises is the kind of thing that someone who's in charge of a situation takes. So Telemachus is showing himself to be that way. After Penelope in Book 18 points out how this stranger Odysseus was abused by the suitors, he jumps in and starts to take responsibility for that situation too. And it's at this point on page 383 that Telemachus basically undoes any doubt that we had about whether he's grown up. Remember at the very beginning of the epic, Athena comes up to Telemachus and says, basically just, come on, grow up. It's time for you to get going and take responsibility. Book 18, he says, I used to think as a child, but not anymore. My heart takes note of everything, feels it too, both the good and the bad. The boy you knew is gone. So Telemachus is now stepping into a different stage of life, and he is ready to take on responsibility for not just his own messes, but other people's messes. That's probably a pretty strong part of what it is to grow up, is taking on other people's messes. Who knows, maybe there should be a universal law built into this one. To grow up means to take on other people's messes. But Telemachus is stepping up to do that and ready to do it. Others seem to notice that this is going on. At the close of 18, he makes threats on page 389 that the suitors take seriously. People are recognizing that he's talking more stringently. Page 419, we see another example of this. The suitors bite their lips, amazed at Telemachus stepping up and getting his more grown-up person to take responsibility for what's happening around him. Then we also see some close-up with what the suitors are all about. We see this through Odysseus's eyes. We've heard from them. We've seen them issuing threats to Telemachus. We've seen Penelope have some very small interactions with them. But we really get to see them at work, see the suitors being the suitors through Odysseus's eyes. And this starts opening up to us in this section of the text through books 17 and 18. Odysseus makes his way in and makes contact, and we get to see what they're like. So these suitors who are eating Odysseus out of house and home and helping themselves to whatever they feel like that belongs to someone else, when a beggar comes in and asks them for their scraps, they turn him away summarily. The suitors not only abuse the xenia that they expect is going to be offered them as sort of guests who horribly overstay their welcome in Odysseus' house, but they not only pervert that xenia, but they also refuse to offer the xenia they should offer to the stranger that washes up into their region in this courtyard of Odysseus' house. They treat him with abuse. They don't give him any food. They surely don't wash his feet. None of the things that a great aristocrat is supposed to do when a stranger comes up on their shores. Even lowly ones should receive this treatment. Remember what Nausicaa said when she saw Odysseus at the beginning of book 6. He was basically dead. He had no clothes on. He was totally bedraggled. He was in that beggar situation, even worse off than he is right now. At least he has rags on when he approaches his own house. When Nausicaa saw that naked and destitute Odysseus, she said, even this person deserves our respect because all guest friends come from Zeus. So she said in book 6, you've got to be nice even to those lowly people low down on the totem pole. But the suitors don't have any of the graciousness of this. They don't give him hospitality. They're busy hoarding and taking Odysseus' goods without sharing any more themselves. Page 366, that comes out. Then Odysseus, as he works his way into this group, has a chance to tell his story. We've seen him do this in the context of Eumaeus. When he offers his story, Eumaeus listens to all the details and makes a connection with them. Not so with the suitors. Odysseus goes on, talks about being a Cretan sailor. They don't understand the meaning. They don't understand that, yeah, maybe there's a stranger here we should be nice to. They have no fellow feeling, no linkage with Odysseus. 368, that comes off. They treat him very rudely. Contrast this with what Eumaeus does. Eumaeus is doing the right thing. The suitors are doing all the wrong things when it comes to xenia. When they cross this threshold and act so ugly, in such an ugly way to Odysseus, yeah, they're treating a beggar poorly and they should have treated a beggar better. But they're also running afoul of this critical code that is built into what it is to be Greek. You ought to treat strangers well. So it's not just that you're doing something that's a little bit rude to this one person. You're violating a core social custom of what it is to be a Greek. So these suitors are violating something quite strong here and being quite so rude to Odysseus. Also, they're violating a code that is strongly knitted into the Greek cultural fabric, but it also comes from Zeus himself. So they're committing a kind of offense against Zeus by not treating a stranger well. And this comes out. Gods arrive disguised in every way. We hear again at page 370. Gods arrive disguised in every way. That person who you don't know who it is could be a god. You should treat them well. And if you don't, you're violating even the great authority of Zeus. Looking forward to book 20, one of the suitors comes out and says, you want a guest gift, you beggar Odysseus? Fine, I'll give you a guest gift, and takes an ox hoof and hurls it hurls it at Odysseus. Further perversion of the custom of Xenia. What you're supposed to do is not take the hoof, which can be used as a weapon, but take the meat, which is nourishing. Give it to someone who comes to your house, take care of them. But they're not doing that. As this book carries forward, book 17, we see further Eumaeus develop in his role as messenger. He brings a message from the stranger to Penelope at 371, then comes back and talks to Odysseus, and Odysseus asks then Eumaeus to bring a message back to Penelope. That message of Penelope, hey, stranger who's just washed into my house, so far away from my husband, maybe you'd like to have a private audience with me, and invites him to go ahead and come on in and talk to her. Already a little bit forward, that maneuver. Odysseus sends back the message, not yet. Let's wait till nighttime. Very interesting exchange of messages there. They're easy enough to take on the plain surface level, and it may well be that all that's happened is Penelope has said, yeah, sure, I'd like to talk to the stranger, could find out about my husband, and the stranger says, well, let's do it later on, it's more convenient for me. But there's something also, the forwardness of Penelope asking to make an audience with this stranger who's nothing but a beggar, and then the stranger coming back and saying, rather than just sort of dropping everything and saying, oh my gosh, the lady of the house is willing to speak with me, but rather than saying, hold off, wait, let's do it at nighttime, when we can do it in a different kind of setting. Both of those things, I think, it's possible that there's a subterranean back message being sent in the message. So kind of like metadata built into the message that's being sent that says, I want to pay some attention to you on both sides. We'll see what that attention is going to be in the coming books. Things start to unfold rapidly and quickly in 17 through 20. Lots of the good stuff starts to unpack itself here.